right. How's it going? Welcome to Jurassic Unicast. I'm James, obviously. This is Sam from Chaos Theorem. And Sam, it's a bit of a random video that Sam sort of chucked upon me, and I thought I'd give it a go. He wants to find out a little bit from the fan base, some random questions to do with Jurassic World Dominion, expectations, things like that. So, Sam, how you doing anyway?
Yeah, I'm good. Working hard and hardly working as usual.
Yeah.
But, as you said, I wanted to kind of turn the questions not necessarily on you, but just get like an idea of expectation, with the trailer drop in and things like that. Kind of like the fan base has blown up in terms of like speculation, expectation, and things like that. And I kind of wanted to, I know like we have like a little chat and that, and everyone's going off and this, that, the other, blah, 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 blah. And I kind of wanted to just have a realistic conversation of, and draw that line or separate that kind of, well, in a nutshell, I wanted to ask, what do you want from Jurassic World Dominion as a fan? Not necessarily like, I want a realistic expectation, because anyone could sit there and be like, I want it to be like the novels and call back and bring back all of this, that, and the other, and but going in to actually watch it, what is your realistic expectations and wants from it? Because as I said, anyone can walk in like, when we watched it, I wanted to be like, I want to see Grant and Malcolm, riding on the back of dinosaurs jousting, and we got that, but no, we didn't. But it's kind of that, isn't it? Anyone can sit there and say what they want, and babble all day long. Oh, I want this. I want the dinosaurs to look like this, or I want them to do this, or be in this situation, and the characters to do this. But looking at Jurassic Park 1 through 5, and where we went from Dominion to Fallen Kingdom and Battle of Big Rock and the prologue and things like that, what realistically do you hope to get from this film?
Right, where to start, really?
Because that's the thing, is it? It's always, everyone's always got an opinion, but when you could kind of put it to them, like, come on, realistically, what do you expect to get out of this? Not, again, what do you think you're going to get, and what do you want from that on a realistic point of view? Yeah. People are so caught up in their, their own headcanon and their own sort of ideas, and that's why you see a lot, not necessarily disappointment, but people are always like, oh, that's not what I thought it'd be, or this is not quite, because they've built something up in their head so much that, it's with the anticipation, which is fine. Everyone looks forward to things and things like that, but because we were lucky enough to not have any of that, so we don't have that this time around. So I just want to get your realistic expectation from what you want from it. I think you muted yourself. Take two.
Yeah, take two. This is the thing. This is really interesting, because I kind of class myself as quite a lenient sort of fan, and like, I'm a fan of Jurassic Park 3, and I know a lot of people aren't. I know you aren't, but I really like it in certain ways. Like, I know it's stupid in many ways, but some of the things in it I really love, and it sticks with me through, like, just when I think of Jurassic, I don't ever forget that film. Like, there's so much good stuff in it. It's just a shame that it's outshadowed by a lot of the other crap. But with the Jurassic World series, the way it's gone, I love the way that Colin has came in and had a story from start, a middle, and a finish, whereas we never got that before. It's an actual proper trilogy, and like, it'd be a shame for people to sort of judge the film based on the trailers, whether they've seen things that's just not their cup of tea, whether it's their wrong style of tone. But it's a question that's got like a million answers, really, to be honest. My expectations are, now I've seen No Way Home and how I came out of that film.
Yeah.
I want the same expectations from Dominion. The target audience is completely different. So, you know, the No Way Home had that element of, you know, keeping on your toes quite well. The nostalgia from all the past characters. You know, the villains that came back, their performances were superb, and it's almost like they've stepped straight out of 2002, 2003, and literally stepped through that portal, and it's the same person. Like, they did such a good bit of homework on that. So for me, character-wise, if we're going to start there, I guess I want them to feel relatable again. Like, I want Alan Grant to feel like Alan Grant, and I'm not sure which one though, because Alan Grant in Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park 3 to me are slightly different. I feel like he has that element of, I guess, age and experience has made him more miserable in the third film and less patient. And I feel like I'm getting the hint that we've got Jurassic Park 3 Grant more than Jurassic Park 1 Grant. Ellie, I just want her to be, you know, how, I guess, to be the similar sort of character that we had before, with, you know, this whole, because she's been missing for such a long time. It'd be interesting to know what her backstory is a little bit more, at least to a certain extent, of it not just feeling forced. I hope that when they brought her in, that she's been brought in for a good reason. Obviously, one of my theories is that she works for Biosyn, based on just little clips that I've seen in the trailer. But I think obviously that could be completely wrong, and she could be brought in just purely for the botany side of stuff, you know, to see why these animals are reacting, how they're reacting in certain environments, or I don't know. There's many reasons why Ellie could be brought in, but go back 6 months, I was really worried about Ellie's introduction and how they're going to bring her in, because I feel like someone like Alan Grant, you know, he's in a field where, you know, dinosaurs are going to constantly be excavated. You know, he's got that sort of role as a profession that doesn't really disappear. So I could easily see him being brought back in quite easily, whereas Ellie's sort of profession isn't quite the same, because obviously in Jurassic Park 3 they weren't together, they weren't, you know, they didn't work together. So, you know, that's what's really important for me. Ian Malcolm, obviously, we've had in Fallen Kingdom.
But
as I say, so we kind of get that hint really of what his character's going to be about, and I just hope there's a little bit of chemistry, so it takes you straight back to that Jeep, the Land Cruiser, where they're talking on their way to the Rex paddock, and they got a bit of bickiness still, and you know, so I just want to be smiling from ear to ear the whole time I'm in there. Come out absolutely buzzing like I was for No Way Home, thinking that was such a good film and so enjoyable, and it's brought me straight back to where I wanted to be in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, do you think, how do you think the characters are going to be? Because you've got to take into account that, you know, it's been like 30 years pretty much. So I think that's what people were expecting, them to just slip straight back into them shoes. And they might do, they might not. You know? I'm not going to give anything away, but I just, you know, other than sort of like dripping in and out of, say, like Twitter or, you know, our group, you know, I just wanted to get like a broad expectation, in particular someone like yourself, you know, it's because it's kind of like the expectation comes down to what is best for the franchise, what is best for the overall story, to bring it forward for every audience. And then there's also a lot of people out there that just wants what's best for them, you know. And that's kind of, where that line is. I kind of want to just separate that.
Yeah, it's the thing is with these characters, like I feel like they needed to be included because, like, if this world is actually happening around them and they're part of the canon, then well, they are. It's where it all stems from, and like for them to be then left out would just be the most strangest choice ever, and it wouldn't go down. Like as if you're gonna make a finale of this saga and leave that opened. Like, well, where's Alan Grant? Where's Ellie Sattler? What are they doing now? Like, how have they been throughout this whole situation of these dinosaurs escaping in Jurassic World? Because that's one thing I remember when Jurassic World came out. Is I wonder if Alan Grant went to the park. I wonder if Ellie went to the park when it first opened in 2005. Like, do you know what I mean? I wonder all these questions. They've never been answered because I kind of don't expect them to be.
They weren't relevant to that story, though.
No, of course they weren't. They weren't. But being but the park being seen fit and active and running properly without any issues for 10 years, you'd like to think that a professional paleontologist would have visited the park just out of curiosity. Obviously, because it's a different experience from Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park wasn't an open park. The paddocks weren't completely safe. They were still going under, investigation. Whereas Jurassic World was established, open. It was a lot safer, and technically, and in Jurassic World only fell because of the pteranodons.
Yeah, but no, though. There could have been some kind of legal document or legal sort of ruling to keep them away because Grant did nothing but sort of badmouth it.
It could have been. Like, it depends really. Like, obviously he must have signed some sort of I think from the Lost World, like especially after Jurassic Park 3 and the incident, you have to go and check out the DBG website and find it global again.
What's that?
Yeah, and I think I don't know. I just my expectations of the characters, I just want them to feel like the same as before, so it's relatable again, and I just want them to blend really well in with Chris and Bryce, the new cast, and I just want it to be just a really fun visual experience and come out thinking that was absolutely superb.
Yeah. What about in terms of story and like the wrapping it up? What for you?
Good question.
Would be a worthy, finale? What would in a realistic sense, realistic expectation of what would potentially have you come out that cinema and be like, okay, that this story's done there, I can walk away and never have to think about it in a forward-thinking motion. You could put it to bed almost. You can relive it again and again, but in terms of
the only way
ending that story,
I think that the only way that it's ever going to be put to bed, like as in Jurassic anything full stop, would be that the animals have to be destroyed, like to bed completely. But if we're going off of what Frank Marshall said, that the stories somehow could continue, then realistically, I would like to look at it as that the threats will be eliminated, Blue will be protected, and certain species will come under the protection, like the wildlife protection, like endangered species list. So we, as a species, just have to acknowledge that they're part of our ecosystem now. And going forward, that I would be happy with that, because for me, like, I know it's probably the train. This is probably going to be the stop that a lot of us will get off, pending the quality of what's coming later. I'd like to kind of discard Camp Cretaceous, anything related to that, because I don't want that direction at all in the live action. I don't want, like, yeah, you can. I enjoy the nods in the show to sort of connect it in their own way. I like the fact that it connects it in some ways, but
it's fine for what it is. You know,
yeah,
I'm
its
not
own
going to
thing.
sit here and see you next Tuesday off, but
Yeah,
it's just not for me. It's a kids show, you know.
Yeah.
Young kids. My kids are a little bit older now, but 3-4 years ago they would have really enjoyed it. But
yeah,
you know, it's just, I think there's a lot of people out there. Again, it comes down to self-serving, who are like trying to force it into the canon because it fits within their head canon, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like an MCU generation. So like everything, they just want so much. Like they want that 22 movie saga that all connects. And I think going in the animation route wasn't the right route to go in terms of connectivity, because obviously the laws of physics just completely go out the window of cartoons. So I think in someday, if we brought out like a series, either possibly, or even a future short film like Battle at Big Rock would be cool. That might be the way forward. High budget, low time, and just absolutely smash it out of the park. And I think that would be good, because if we were to leave this story as an open-ended story where, you know, it completes our saga perfect, you know, the characters have got their climax, you know, something's that the animals have got a certain level of protection, you know, certain areas, the government have stepped in at certain places to stop certain things. I don't know. I don't really know. I'm just sort of going out on a win here. But I think that would be a nice way to finish, realistically, I think, if the franchise was to continue afterwards without these characters, in an open world situation where you have a Battle at Big Rock situation with characters that we don't know anything about, animals that we all know are familiar, something like that, really. Which some people might hate that idea, but I just think when you think about how can they possibly do it without going out and murdering them all, I just think it's probably the most humane thing to do, especially in the type of situation we're in now. Anyway, you know, protecting animals and ice caps melting and all that sort of stuff, you know.
Yeah, I think try and word this as best as possible. I mean, for me,
breaking NDA.
For me, you know, I'm satisfied with how it ends, you know, really, and I would be happy if that's it. You know, if I've been not vocal, but you know, I've got no interest in. A lot of people hit out like want a prequel series and things like that. I don't really have an interest in that. I think we've got the interesting story is now on what we've gotten. You know, I don't. You know, it would like say Trespass, or whether people consider that canon or not. You know, I don't think there's interesting enough stories there to validate a series or a film or anything like that, and I don't think the audience is there, and that comes down to, you know, people's what they want, you know, themselves to satisfy their self needs rather than the benefit of the franchise's needs. You know, I wouldn't be too opposed to say like a single spin-off story, just to like away from this timeline, this saga, you know, just to see it from another perspective, almost not like Bumblebee, but you know how that's kind of separate from, and that's kind of like a prequel, but you know, it would be interesting to see the other side of the coin almost, but
yeah, we see it from our protagonists all the time, don't we?
But you know, almost like a Big Rock, you know, because that's seeing like the after events of Fallen Kingdom from another perspective. So
absolutely, I've always liked that comic, the desert one with the pteranodons.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I mean. Like they're like perfect little stories that they could bring into the Jurassic canon, and it'd really work well. Fans would love it. not brand new characters, brand new actors. You could pinpoint it at any time as well. It doesn't have to be in any distinct time period. It could, you got the stuff that you guys wrote on the website about the excavation, the Jurassic Park 3 pteranodons. You've got, I feel like there's endless things really when it comes to spin-off stuff. And I think it'd be a safe bet. I think carrying on more films would end up making it more of a Fast and Furious type thing. And it's like, yeah, right, they've kind of, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Rinsed it enough, almost.
Conveyor belt of just film after film. I think the difference as well between Jurassic and Marvel is one. Jurassic is another big one. Is a big bet starting fresh, a big gamble, should I say? And the thing with the MCU is they're lucky enough that now they've got this platform with Disney Plus that they can take the risks and things like that, and they're constantly keeping that not fresh because,
it is,
in my opinion, it's drained. But they're constantly keeping it in the audience's eye with, here's a series of shorts. They have all them like what ifs. Is a constant. You can go on there every week on Disney Plus, and there's a fresh bit of MCU content to keep people going between films and series. Whereas I think if Jurassic went down that path, it would become very tired very quick. So we don't have the benefit of a pre-built universe of characters to make the stories differentiate enough to maintain them being interesting. So the other potential could be sort of like a series. That's a potential. Got even like the Lord of the Rings ones now, isn't it? It's obviously someone there has made the call to see that actually now the money is in a series rather than in a cinematic trilogy or something. But again, that's the future. I wouldn't. I'm happy with how it is, but I would, if as long as the story is interesting enough and it's not just a gamble for money. I think you could have something else.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's you don't want them to just make a film for making a film's sake. When it's not necessarily needed. Like at the end of the day, like we know that Colin's finally written his story, right? So him and Emily have been working with this, and this is the story he's always wanted to make. So, it would take a complete refresh, reboot. It would need a new director, he'd probably produce it, to be fair. But let's just, for argument's sake, say possibly a new producer. The chances I would probably get the same composer back because Giacchino has kind of put his stamp on it now, like Williams did with Star Wars stuff. I think it's definitely interesting. Like I don't really want to look too far in the future. I like a bit of a gap, at least a few years. I want this film to be digested and not just forgotten. And I think that's the thing with Marvel. You've got the phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, 3. And then you had the end game, and now phase 4 has started, and it's like a whole new different tone to it. It's gone a bit mental with like the multiverses and stuff like that. With Star Wars, they've gone for the in-between route, haven't they? They've gone for like backstories of certain characters, which you can do with Star Wars because it's such a diverse thing.
And they've already got that pre-built universe, haven't they, for years and years of extended universe novels and games and stuff like that. And they have got a vast catalogue of comic stories. Whereas with Jurassic Park come out, we had the comics, and then there was that following on one, which was a load of old guff, in my opinion. And then obviously them ones from a few years ago, as you said, was it like Devils in the Desert and all that?
That's it.
I don't think that stuff. Some of them ideas would be cool, but I don't think they're strong enough to carry anything. Carry the brand.
Like it'd be like a Terra Nova type series, wouldn't it? Like you have half an hour episodes, and you just like at the end of the day, if the quality is good and to put a huge budget in, they would work, but they would work for what they are, like literally just short stories, just to sort of tick us over. But it's all good ticking us over if there's something to tick us over for. That's the only thing, isn't it, with it?
Yeah.
But I don't demand a series at all. I'm quite happy just going back and watching all the films that we love already.
Yeah.
If it does, it does. I'm not going to say no to it. It's just if it does get the green light at any of these sort of series or spin-off things, I just hope they don't just do it for a cash grab and they get the right people involved.
We had 12 years of thinking that, or like assuming and thinking that the franchise was over, and the 1, 2, and 3 was all we were getting and all we had. So we survived that. Just being like, there was a good 10-year period in that 13, 14-year period where it was like, nice, done. No more Jurassic ever. And that was, although a lot of people were disappointed in Jurassic Park 3, and it was a bit of a bummer that that's what it could have ended on. It is what it is, and we got 2 great movies out of the 3. So and I was happy with that. I'm happy that we've got 5 great movies. So and Jurassic Park 3. But as I said, it's just I've just been trying to, without getting sucked into any kind of, because it can be a deep dive on the internet, and you get sucked into stuff that you probably don't want to get sucked into. But it's just trying to relate to what people want and get a clear picture of what's a realistic expectation, not what's not a realistic expectation. Because that speculation for like the fan base is building up now. What is it, like 3.5 months out of the film, and we're like 9 months past the fact. So we're not like where I had to at. It's just trying to level out again from being in a completely different place.
Yeah, Sam, I think another important thing is age as well. I think age is a big factor into the level of expectations. Like, there's a lot of younger generation. You're looking like, below the age of about 23 that are really invested in
but they're used to that. Feed me content.
But
with, like Disney
they
Plus
are. They just want it all the time, and they're so used to shows like Disney Plus, like you said. And they're just like, they're obsessed with the campcretaceous stuff, and it's fine if they enjoy it and they love it. But
when did the first series come out?
It was only last year. It's only we've had 4 seasons in 1 year.
The 5th season is dropping in a couple of months, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's just that quick fire content is ridiculous. I come from the time a lot of shows, still quality shows, are 1 series a year or 1 series every 2 years.
Yeah, definitely. Like
season.
I think, like, there's quite a few shows that I watch that we have to wait like a whole year for, and for them to, because they've got to film, they've got to get the quality of writing in, and I think that's what it is. Is that and it's interesting. Another thing about that, the younger generation, their expectations being a bit different to ours, is that with the Camp Cretaceous stuff, is that they've had to, if Dominion would have dropped last year, we wouldn't have had a season 4 and a season 5, and I'm wondering how much of an impact the writing of that show would have had. I'm wondering what the impact of Dominion would have had on the writing of the show, because obviously within reason they're trying to keep it its own thing, but also trying to have connective tissue somewhere where they can. So the younger audience are going to try and soak that up and want to, in their heads, connect that together. See, now for me, my expectations, I think, are a lot more realistic because I don't class it as canon. So all my expectations are all come from Fallen Kingdom, Jurassic World, and the previous films, and anything that you guys have written. So the Camp Cretaceous stuff could not exist for all I care in terms of canon. So my expectations are I just hope that they follow on from the Maisie story. We get a climax of that. We get some sort of form of a conclusion with the mosasaur. I'd like to know what's going on with that a little bit more. What's happened with Blue and the baby. I guess just stuff that I think that's important for the stories that we've already got. That's kind of my expectations. I don't care about all this other stuff being brought in and these other ideas that could possibly happen in the future. The ones that we've already got established. No?
I was going to say, I think there can be an element with, and that's one of the things why I want to have this chat, because looking around and that, there's a lot of people are looking for stuff that's not there to begin with, as well.
Yeah.
Where they're built out so highly in their head and and putting their personal expectations and wants and needs in mixing it up too much, blurring that line.
Exactly. Like for example, a lot of people are like, oh, I really hope Bumpy's in Dominion, and I'm like, I know, but it's true. I guarantee there'll be loads of people on Twitter and Facebook that will be desperate for that to happen. But it'll guarantee that'll be also a younger generation, because some people don't have Netflix, they've probably even seen the show. Some half the people, and so they're not going to place something in a film that you're required to have Netflix to watch. So that's how I look at it from a realistic standpoint and marketing. But this is the thing, isn't it? Like, expectations are always a subjective thing. Everyone's going to have a different opinion. Everyone's going to have a different idea of what they want, a different idea of what they visioned the ending's going to be. Like Steve might have a completely different one to me, but certain elements. Sorry,
he wants Bumpy.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just think that I'm going to go into this film with realistic expectations of the fact that I think it's going to be a fun movie. It's going to be an absolute nostalgia fest for me. I'm just going to be smiling from ear to ear. It's going to, the visual effects already like amazing, best to date, just based on a trailer. So I can only imagine what they're going to be like in the film. Can't wait for new soundtracks. I don't know. I just think it's just going to be a brilliant film, and to get all this story wrapped up, it's just going to be great. It's going to be sad, like the fact that after this film's gone, like
it was a real awakened moment of like for us. Just when it's done, it was like, oh, that's it. It was weird. It's like 27 years or 28 years, is it now? It's 29 years now, so it would have been 28 years of just like, oh, there we go. There it is. But I mean, there's a lot obviously that we weren't subjected to. Like I'm looking forward to hearing Giacchino's score. There were some bits in it, but I think there was a lot of filler. Like there's a lot of reused Fallen Kingdom stuff too. It was a year before release, so there was going to be some filler stuff in there or temporary stuff. But I'm excited to see it again. It's a year's a long wait. So
I suppose it is. Like, you think I can't believe it's only 4 or 5 months down the line now. It's just crazy. Like what we're going to see is it. Oh, actually, I've just thought about another expectation. Now, it's to do with the time of the film, the length of the film. Now, obviously, I know you can't say, but a realistic length of film for me is no longer than 2.5 hours, really. I think, because you really, really tread fine on the pacing issues if a film's any longer than that. As a fan, we just want to watch things. We want the film to slow down. We want to see them chat. We want to see them, we want all these memories come back. But you've got to think, unselfishly, you've got to think that there's a younger generation that don't give a crap about that. They want to see fast action movie stuff. And it's a very difficult job, and I really I wouldn't envy being put in Colin's position sometimes, because he's had such a hard, difficult job to try and appease so many different people, make sure it's faithful,
I mean, it's really easy to talk in the past tense, say with like the DPG, like the mindset with that, and is like, what would please this like the fans, the deep fans, what would please the, you know, the basic fans, and what would, you know, be good for a new audience or someone completely blind stumbling into it all and finding that middle ground, you know, that satisfies everyone. And that's just for what we did. Imagine that on a whole, like a $200 million movie, like, and a 3-film franchise. You know, it's the pressure. You know, the pressure is definitely there. But I think you just got, again, you just got to not blur them lines. You know, it is. You know, it's that, and that's what kind of baffles me with some of the people online. You know, from my point of view, at least, is that they're like, oh, it needs to do this, it needs to do that. It's like, yeah, but that would satisfy you, the one guy sitting there at home on your computer, or a little group of yous. But what about that family of 4 who like dinosaurs and enjoyed the other films, and they want to go and watch this film this weekend? They're not going to give a crud about, you know, what happened between 1993 and 1997 and whatnot. You know, it's they just want to go and enjoy a good film, and same with me. You know, I wanted to enjoy a good film, and I'm sure you, as just a movie goer, want to enjoy a good film. You know, because if you've got an hour and a half or 2 hour, a 2.5 hour film of just talking about past stuff and all this and the other, you'll be like, oh, that's quite boring. You know.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, I guarantee if you ask a kid now to watch Jurassic Park, they just want to watch the dinosaurs. I bet all that conference room stuff, all the tour vehicles, seeing nothing. I bet they're just like, I bet that it doesn't. I bet that sort of film doesn't really interest them as much. I reckon like Jurassic World was perfect for kids, because instantly within, you know, the first 20 minutes you're seeing a petting zoo. Like, what more a kid? There's like the perfect situation for a kid, a petting zoo. So even for an adult, like, imagine if that was in real life, we'd all be in there in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
it's just one of those things, isn't it? And I feel like it appeases to that audience better than the older films, even though they might be better written. You know, it's just one of those things. Like, hopefully Dominion will find that balance in between.
Yeah. Well, we'd consider ourselves huge fans of things like that. And when Jurassic come out, I was 8, and then probably around about 9, maybe, when the video come out to VHS. And, you know,
that year-long wait.
Yeah, well, it was 5 months for rental, and then 5 months after that for purchase, wasn't it? And it was, you know, there was a million times I watched that film and I just skipped straight to the dinosaur bits. You know, I think I see Jurassic Park 3 times in the cinema, and like on the second and third viewing, I was just like, come on, just get to the T-Rex breakout, you know. And anyone who was around that age or younger is like, no, I enjoyed watching all of the table talk, you know, when they're having dinner and all of that. It's like, no, you didn't. You just want to see dinosaurs, and that's, you know, you want to have that fine line of, as I said, about satisfying everyone. You know, you want to satisfy the fan base, you want to satisfy the general audience, and you want to satisfy the kids and the families who just want to see a cool movie. So
definitely, I think
it's not just important about you, as in, or us as the fans.
Yeah, I think it's important to have those slow moments in films to sort of, you know, like, as a breathing space. And I think
otherwise it just becomes Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know what, though? Jurassic Park 3 is a very realistic portrayal of what it'd be like to live in that environment. Because, you know, if you're on an island full of dinosaurs, you're going
for shit for a phone.
Yeah, you're going to come across different animals throughout. Like, imagine if you was just plonked in the middle of Africa, you'd see a giraffe or a deer, or you're going to come across all these different animals. Luckily, obviously, again, in Africa, you're probably less likely to be in a dangerous environment. But with in a jungle that is full of dinosaurs, you're going to come across these animals constantly. The Lost World doesn't really portray that in that way. It seems like the island is so big that, you know, the animals are still few and far between.
But they were sort of avoiding territories, though, weren't they? I think.
Yeah, I guess within reason they were, but
that's what I said about the velociraptors, weren't it? And they were trying to avoid the long grass before it all went.
Yeah,
up in the air with the campsite and that, you know, the real dangerous encounters they had from rescuing Sarah and Malcolm up until the T-Rexes. They were just trekking and they were avoiding territories. You know, Dieter Stark getting eaten was because he wandered off, and you know, some think it was the combies coming for him for revenge or whatnot. But you know, he stumbled off the path. That's why he met his demise, and the Rexes were hunting them down. So it wasn't, and they only stumbled into the long grass because of that.
It's definitely a good. Like, I guess it's an objective argument because you are stating facts there. It was a territorial thing, and it was even foreshadowed at the start with the exposition with Hammond and stuff like that. But Jurassic Park 3, I think the way they filmed it made the island feel smaller, and they were coming across things a bit more like King Kong, Jackson's King Kong. You know, where she kept coming across all these different creatures. If it weren't them four-legged ones, it was the big V-Rexes and raptors and all that sort of stuff, you know. It's just a different style. But there was no sort of break. There wasn't really a slow down moment apart from the embryonics chamber. And whereas The Lost World had them moments of slow pace. But I don't know. I just think it's one of those things that I think if it's a 2-hour movie, people would probably be like, oh. If it's a 2-hour 10, it might give it a little bit more leeway. I think people wouldn't complain too much with that because a lot of the modern day films probably tend to be like that. I think what it is that we're so used to seeing films like Endgame and Batman and all these other hero films and any sort of other new film that's out, the Jungle Cruise, they're all over 2 hours 15 minutes. So you have that expectation that already going into it, this is a film that I love. I want it even more. I could sit there for 5 hours of this crap. Do you know what I mean? But realistically, you're not going to get that.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to how well it's executed. You know, there's been films that are an hour and 40 minutes, and I feel like I've been watching them 3 hours where they're just not done well and the pacing's all off. And there's been films that are like three hours long, etc. And I'm like, cool. But then when I watched Endgame, I couldn't wait to get out of there. I was just like, holy crap. But then Infinity War I enjoyed, and I don't think there's that much time difference between the two. So they're both pushing 3 hours. So
yeah. I think Spider-Man No Way Home was quite a long film, but
but they didn't feel like a long film because
it didn't feel like a long film, and I wasn't once looking at the time thinking, "What? How late is this?" Because I was like, yawning and stuff. And that's what I don't want. I don't want that. Like, I thought Jurassic World was really well paced. I thought Fallen Kingdom was slower paced, but I think I don't know. I think what it is the way when they sort of the contrast in the island to the mainland. It kind of had that feel to it. It did make it slow down slightly.
Is that just because it broke the mold from?
Yeah, probably.
It broke the Jurassic mold. You know, everything's like
green
pre-island thing, and then on the island. You know, and that was present in 4 films basically. Yeah. Except for, but then again, I mean, The Lost World did it, but that was just like the small third act. Whereas, you know, Fallen Kingdom, it's almost like they cut it down the middle. It's almost like 2.
Yeah, it was bang. It's literally like 2 movies separated, wasn't it? It was like part 1 and part 2, and it could have been Fallen Kingdom. Could have been. I would have liked to have spent more time on the island personally. But if it was going to be like the climax of the island and it's going to blow up and don't want to see it anymore, then I'd like to have spent a little bit longer there. And we probably, if Universal really wanted to, they could have written it a bit more. They could have maybe split the film in half, but then another whole 2 hours on that island again, waiting for it to sort of explode, and the volcano would have been very, very long. And
I think with Fallen Kingdom, it's kind of like that bit when you're doing a puzzle, and you're like, "What the hell is this piece?" You know, it's a weird shape. It doesn't even look, you know. It doesn't even look like it belongs in this puzzle. Like, that's some people's opinion. To me, I like it anyway. But when you've got the complete trilogy there, and you watch it as a whole, and you review it in a whole, you're like, holy crap! You know, that is like Fallen Kingdom is much more appreciated in the overall picture of things.
Yeah, that's another aspect. That's a really good segue, actually, Sam. I think we're probably going to come to a finish now pretty soon.
Yeah.
A good segue to finish on then is the I want to look. What I liked about Fallen Kingdom is then when I watched back at Jurassic World, it made me appreciate a bit more of Owen's raptor training. It made me sort of. It kind of made the end scene of Jurassic World a lot more realistic with Blue, and I understand how she sort of didn't attack Owen when he was in front of the Innovation Centre. Yeah, all these little things, and then you got in Fallen Kingdom, you've got the bit more in-depth side of things, and I just hope that when we watch Dominion, and you've kind of confirmed that in your way of saying it, is that you can look back at both of these films, and preferably the second one, and how much of an importance it has on the third film when you look at the trilogy arc as a story on its own.
Yeah, I mean that's my opinion. For me, I loved Fallen Kingdom anyway, but in terms of a whole, I think after the fact of that viewing, I appreciated it a lot more, even though I loved it anyway. It played a bigger part than expected, and it was just but I'm completely biased towards Fallen Kingdom anyway. That it's just it's. Again, I think a lot more people will probably appreciate it in retrospect once they've completed their viewing journey.
I've got some friends of mine that just can't stand the film. They hate it. Like they just like this. They like it visually. They think it's brilliant, but story-wise, they just think it's just awful writing. And then I have to say to them like, well. It's a gap. It's filling. It's almost like you reading a book and stopping it before the final third of the book and just putting it down and never reading it again. I said you've got to look at it like, rather than looking at it from a start, a middle, and an end. It's almost like it's got a start and a middle without an end, because the end is coming. And I think that's a wrong way of people look at it in the wrong way. And
I understand
okay
that.
too.
I understand that viewpoint, and I agree, but also I don't agree that, opposing that is that I don't think that the film should be looked like in an Infinity War. Although it's the middle film in a trilogy story, it's not a part one of two, if you know what I mean. For me, if Fallen Kingdom was the end of the story of like, oh no, dinosaurs are out in the wild now, that's fine by me also. If Dominion never happened, I've got enough imagination where I can be like, oh, the dinosaurs are here now. They're living in the wild. But that's just me again.
That makes sense.
But it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. It's going to be another few months of speculation and people saying what they want.
I've got a lot more random, pathetically stupid theories coming. Don't worry about that.
I think that's why. Because I was watching yours when I got back from my run. I was after I washed in that, I was just watching your new one, and I was like, I want to ask James some questions. Put him on the spot with a few things rather than. Because everyone can speculate and everyone can be like, I want this, I want that. But I just want to be like, but realistically, what do you think you're going to get and what would you be happy with? Because as I said, I can think of a million things of what I would like to see or what I would want in a film. But then, for my mindset over the last two has been more like what suits the story. For various reasons and what's best for the film.
Story over substance sometimes. I think a lot of the fans, especially the older ones, I think they just really want the story to work, considering like not everyone enjoyed the first story from Jurassic World. They preferred Fallen Kingdom or vice versa. Entertaining. I think that's a big key. With certain audience, my wife being the general audience in this situation, she didn't like Fallen Kingdom at all, but loved Jurassic World. Yeah,
didn't
because she
also.
didn't find it entertaining. She just didn't like the whole manor thing. But she loved Jurassic World because the pacing, the something she could relate to. She could imagine going to that park, going to visit it. You know, something that she's been used to from going to Disney World, going to, you know.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
that's where the general audience need to sort of be interested in what their views are massively. But
yeah. I think the best way to round it up is, just because something's different or something is not what you expected doesn't automatically make it bad.
no,
You know, there's a lot of films as a younger sort of like movie nerd, not Jurassic or anything like that, just like some horror films where I was like, oh, I don't like that. Oh, it's not what I wanted. And then I've watched them like 5-10 years later, and I'm like with an open mind, and I feel like, oh, actually that was really good. Why was I such an idiot before, and just not looking past my own personal wants and gains to just enjoy the film for what it is and see
yeah.
what actually offered me apart from what I wanted in a selfish way.
Do you think, just a final thought, do you think this film
Yeah.
will age well in terms of, like, not necessarily visuals, because they're always going to age well?
Well, people will pick apart the special effects no matter what. I mean, everyone can see, this ain't spoiling anything, but everyone can see from the trailer the special effects in this are phenomenal. I think Jurassic World is 7 years old now. I think
That's mad, isn't it?
yeah, and I think that's aged particularly well. I mean, Fallen Kingdom's 4 years old now. That's aged well.
Just story wise, really. I don't necessarily mean visually, you know, like, do you
Yeah.
think the story is going to age well? Do you think in 10 years' time or 15 years' time that we're going to be looking back at Dominion thinking that, like, do you think people's opinions that might
Jurassic.
be a bit. Yeah, but do you think people's opinions that might be a little bit harsh towards the film, towards the series, they might say, do you know what, I was a little bit harsh towards that, considering what we've had in the last 15 years. Going 15 years ahead.
I think there's certain people out there in the fan base, once they've had times for to let it sink in, and depending how the franchise is dealt with in the future, whether it's just let go or, taken in a new saga direction or whatnot, they will probably come back and appreciate a lot more. You don't appreciate a lot of things until they're gone. That's kind of thing. And that's kind of like what I'm saying is, like, they might look back and be like, oh, I was so preoccupied with what I wanted, I didn't actually appreciate what we were getting, as a fan base and as an audience, is what I'm trying to say.
Famous Malcolm quote.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's just, it'd be nice for people to look at the bigger picture.
Yeah,
and I'm not sitting here trying to defend Dominion. I don't think Dominion needs any defending. Yeah. Even from a non-biased point of view, it's a rad film. So.
Yeah, no, I can't wait. I think obviously you can't wait to see everyone else's reactions to this film, and I think we'll probably end up going together at one point, won't we, Sam? Hopefully, me and Steve hopefully meet up.
You're going to miss opening day, aren't you? So.
What's that?
You're going to miss opening day.
Yeah, I am. We're gonna go the next day though. He said he's gonna wait until the 11th and go during the day. So
that would be 366 days I've waited to talk to you about it, so I can wait one more day if you don't make opening day. So.
Yeah, it'd be all right.
It will be good to see it in its full again, and just talk about it with everyone rather than our sort of really small, Jack, Ross, and myself. Really is, it's like we know us, not so like that, but it's just, we've been just in our little circle discussing things and that. But it would be nice to discuss it with everyone. It's not. It's hard to just not talk about stuff and bite your lip at a lot of stuff. But, oh well. I think it's a lot. It's definitely with the trailer and that with the things starting getting out there, it's been a little bit easier. But the one thing why I wanted to have this conversation, as I said, is just it's that mindset that I've just had a little bit of trouble connecting with, because I'm seeing so many different opinions and people like that, and then possibly the negative stuff is more I've seen come across as selfish, other than sort of like your paleo nerds and things like that who will be like, oh, it doesn't look right and things like that. But that's, you want something to look like something 29 years ago, you know, there's 1,000,001 different factors, you know, is why that could be on and off the camera. So, but
yeah, definitely.
yeah,
It's good. Good
it's
one
not an
finish,
insult
I
to
think.
paleo nerds. It's just saying, yeah. It's like going to watch The Fast and the Furious and getting upset about the physics. So
Yeah, and that brake horsepower is incorrect.
yeah, that car wouldn't accelerate like that. That's gravel.
Well, I think that's a good place to finish, Sam. Thanks for coming on. It's been a pleasure as always.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your feedback and whatnot. So
yeah, no worries.
Cool.
Guys that are watching, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new, and also leave a comment, because I like interacting with everyone that watches the videos. I'd like to hear your thoughts on any of the topics that we've discussed. Only one thing left to say: life will find a way. Bye bye.